Maybe I should just keep taking vacations because it seems like the Rockies want to win some games when I'm not doing the Locked On Rockies postcast because I'm at a concert or I'm out and about or I'm on vacation in the middle of July, as you should be. Because I'm back right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. And the Rockies lose tonight to the Cincinnati Reds as the never ending struggle continues by a final score of 6-0. The offense was lifeless. Who was on the mound? Was it Ryan Feltner tonight? Ryan Feltner was actually pretty good for them, and another spoiled start from the rotation here as of late. And we'll break it all down on tonight's episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast, as the Rockies have now lost consecutive games after a nice little streak there, and looking like tough times. I believe now 7 consecutive losses for them at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. All right, let's break it down. Let's get into it right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast.
You are Locked On Rockies postcast, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is the Locked On Rockies postcast, and I am your host, Aniello Piro. You can follow me if your heart desires on social media at Media by AP, where I dish out a couple of takes every now and again about the Rockies, about the Nuggets, all Denver sports. So if you want to follow me over there at Media by AP, is the place to do it on both Instagram and X. And this is Locked On Sports, your team every day. And today's episode of the Locked On Rockies postcast is brought to you by our friends over at Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals at 1-800-549-1000. Be sure to give them a call, 1-800-549-1000, or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And if you've been listening to the show, when I do the Tax Network USA read, which I'll do here in just a few minutes, you know that I've been fighting with the IRS and fighting with the state to try to figure out where my tax return is. Good news. I have found out that it was just lost in the mail. And so I'm going to get a new one here sooner rather than later. But at least the tax issues in the Piro household are slowly but surely getting resolved. But visit our friends over at Tax Network USA if you're having any issues with the IRS. But okay, I am back from vacay, and like I said, I wish it was under better circumstances, as the Rockies tonight lose by a final score of 6-0, just a mere 4 hits for this Rockies ball club, as they fall now. Let's get the updated 32-59. I believe when I left for vacation, they had 28 wins, or maybe it was 29 wins. So they had a couple while I'm gone, and looks like they're right back to it now that I'm right back to it, right back in the saddle right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. But before we dive into the Rockies, because it's a lot of rinse and repeat with this team at this point right now, we'll also talk some Ryan McMahon, as he is apparently, bearing anything unforeseen, will be the lone all-star representative for the Colorado Rockies. So congratulations to Ryan McMahon. We'll spend some time on him and his all-star deserved candidacy a little bit later on in the program here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. But I just need to come out and say one thing. I wear the Grateful Dead hat more often than not on this show, 9 times out of 10, because I just come back from the gym and I look like a mess. And so I just got to throw on a hat. I just came back from Vegas, where I saw Dead & Company, which is the offshoot of the Grateful Dead, was Bob Weir and John Mayer and all those guys, at the Sphere for a Dead & Company show. And the Sphere is that big old globe-shaped music venue that's out there in Vegas. Look, I don't want to take up the whole first segment talking about it, because I certainly could. All I will say, get to the Sphere. Get to the Sphere. It is absolutely incredible. We saw the NHL draft there. Maybe Major League Baseball tries to do something if the Oakland Athletics eventually make their way out there. If you're a music fan, or just a fan of entertainment in general, or a fan of getting your mind blown into a million pieces, go to the Sphere, because I cannot say enough incredible things. I just posted some pictures from my show there on Twitter at Media by AP if you guys want to check it out. But go to the Sphere. It's incredible. Okay, let's dive into this ball game, as it's a lot of the same themes that unfortunately we've been talking about since I started doing this Locked On Rockies postcast. And look, when the opportunity was presented to me, obviously I was elated. I'm a baseball guy. That's my sport. The Rockies have been not so good in recent memory, but there's something romantic sometimes about, rallying around a subpar club. There's some novelty, there's some charm, and we don't even have that. And I'm not like a lifelong Rockies fan. I've only been in Colorado for about 12 years now, so a good chunk of my life. So I've been following them pretty consistently for the last decade or so, dozen years or so. This has got to be the worst that it's been in franchise history. And for any of the listeners out there, I know we had a couple of people out there that were, commenting on some old videos about no more Locked On Rockies postcasts. Like, don't worry, I'm here. I was just taking a time out. I was on vacation. We're still here. We are still bringing the thunder. We're still bringing the fury each and every show. But for any of the listeners out there, drop me a comment on YouTube. Is this the worst Rockies team you guys have ever seen? I'm looking for the lifelong Rockies fans out there, because obviously they lose 100 games for the first time in franchise history last season. They're probably going to be worse record-wise, this season than they were in last season. And I'm looking, they're doing the post-game show like Jeff Houston and Drew Goodman. I mean, salute and God bless to you guys. Like that is a tough team to have to get up and talk about and broadcast and just chit chat about it. I know I'm not trying to be a hypocrite and put my foot in my mouth here. I don't mind doing it at all. But like, usually throughout the course of a season, right, there's some moments that you can get excited about. There's some instances that you can get excited about. I mean, for the last 6 weeks, what have you been able to get excited about with the Colorado Rockies? That's not just the requisite stuff, right? Okay, I love Ezekiel Tovar as much as anybody. Like, he's the one guy that seems to provide some positivity. I know Brenton Doyle's been fantastic for this team as of late. Ryan McMahon, like I said, a source of positivity, being named to the All-Star team and just having a great season right now for the Rockies. But like, the collective body of work, hope, optimism, direction for the franchise. What have you seen this season that gives the Rockies fan any sort of hope that it's not going to just be the same old song and dance next year? Because I'm an eternal optimist. I'm always a glass half full guy for the most part. When it comes to just like life outlook and sports. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan and a New York Met fan, for crying out loud. I mean, if I'm not an optimist, I don't know what else to call myself at that point. So I know what it's like to be rallied around or surrounded around mediocrity and misery and pain and bad play and dysfunction. But this just seems lifeless. And the offense as of late has just been lifeless. And look, I know that they won those couple of games while I was gone. We'll break that down throughout the course of the program. But just like every single night, it's just rinse and repeat with this Rockies lineup. I mean, how do you expect to win games on a consistent basis when you have 4 hits in the game? I mean, I could think back to that week of shows that I did right before I went on vacation. So not last week, but the week before. And it was like 3 hits one night, 4 hits the next night, 5 hits the next night, and then back to 3 hits and 4 hits. And it's just like, there is not only a lack of offensive production within this Rockies lineup, there is a devoid of production. There is a devoid of talent. There's some individual guys that have been, doing all right. Brendan Rodgers, we talked about Brenton Doyle here for a minute as well, but the body of work for this Rockies lineup has been as bad as I have ever seen in my 26 years, I guess, call it 20 formidable years of watching Major League Baseball. I don't know if it's worse. I've watched some pretty bad Mets teams in my life, right? The Mets in the division, I've seen some pretty bad Washington Nationals teams. With the Rockies in the division, I've seen some pretty bad Arizona Diamondbacks and San Diego Padres teams. Even some San Francisco Giants teams, at points or another. I've seen some really bad Pittsburgh Pirates teams. I've seen some really bad Cincinnati Reds teams in my time. I've seen some goodness gracious, awful Detroit Tigers teams. And I'm struggling to find any sort of optimism about how this team is going to improve. And I almost tweeted this out, but I didn't. Tyler Kinley, Dakota Hudson, who I believe just got DFA'd by the team, and Ryan Feltner, like, in my head, are the same player. Like 3 different players. I know that, but like in my head, it's just like they're all just kind of the same. And maybe that's not fair for a guy like Ryan Feltner, who's been all right as of late for this Rockies club. His record obviously isn't going to state that, but we all know, if you're, a real baseball fan, that, wins and losses is arguably the worst way to gauge the productivity of a Major League Baseball player, specifically of a starting pitcher. But it's just like, it just feels like every game is black and white, black and white, black and white. Like, you get your moments here, walk-off win here, a nice win there, offensive explosion at home there. But collectively, 9 times out of 10 this season, it has felt just like the same game over and over and over and over. And there's like, I shouldn't even say the same game. There's like 3 different types of games that they play. There's the game like we saw tonight, where the offense is just absolutely lifeless. The starting pitching is decent. The bullpen's, I know the bullpen kind of, gave it away there at the end of the game, but they didn't really have anything to give away because the Rockies offense didn't score anything. So you have that type of game. You have the game where the offense is all right, the starting pitching is all right, and the bullpen just, blows it all away. We've seen that time and time again over the course of Rockies history. And then you have the reverse of that, where the lineup is solid, the bullpen's all right. I mean, it might not even matter because the starting pitcher takes you out of the game. So like those are like the 3 variations of loss for the Rockies. It's either offense bad, pitching decent, or pitching bad, offense decent. Like you have not seen a lot of consistency out of this team as of late. So we'll see what happens. But tonight it is a 6-0 loss for this team. Limping into the All-Star break are the Rockies right now. And before we hit our first break, let's just take a look at what they were doing while I was gone, because I know they had themselves a pretty decent series against Kansas City. Yeah, so they win the final game of that series against the Milwaukee Brewers last week, 4-3. And they win back-to-back games against the Kansas City Royals, 4-2 and 3-1. But again, we're talking about 7 combined runs in 2 games for this team. And then they, in typical Rockies fashion, they lose the final game, an opportunity for a series sweep, and they lose that game 10-1, and then follow that up tonight with a 6-0 loss. So consecutive losses for the Rockies. They dropped the series opener, and I'm looking at the lineup right now as Buddy Black is addressing the media. 3 players had hits tonight for the Rockies. Chuck Nasty, Ryan McMahon, the lone All-Star, and Brenton Doyle. That is all she wrote for the Rockies tonight. So let's hit a quick break. When we come back, let's dive into the game. Let's take a look at some of the hits. Let's take a look at Ryan Feltner's pitching line tonight and just kind of talk about what went wrong, because I don't think anything really went right for the Rockies tonight as they lose to the Cincinnati Reds by a final score of 6-0. Stick with us, coming back, talking about it right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. All right, y'all. Let me tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks here real quick, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. And now you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And if you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered each and every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Our friends over at Prize Picks are going to take great care of you. And with the finals over, the hoops action does not stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside the greats like Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. Again, you can win up to 100 times of your cash watching them ball out. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So be sure to download that Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first-time deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with our friends over at Prize Picks. And one of my buddies here at the studio actually just told me today he was out there in California over the course of the 4th of July, and Prize Picks, legal sports betting, all that kind of stuff. It's a little different out there in California. Prize Picks is huge out there in California. They're huge in Texas as well. So I know there's a lot of Rockies fans that like to migrate out towards California, live out in California. Download Prize Picks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first-time deposit match of up to $100. All right, and let me also tell you about our friends over at Tax Network USA, because here on the Locked On Rockies postcast, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. We get it, folks. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals at Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating, not an A, not an A-, an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon, and be sure to mention Locked On Rockies POSTCAST at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. Be sure to check out our friends over at tnusa.com/lockedon or give them a call at 1-800-549-1000. All right, so welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Be sure to check me out on social media at Media by AP, talking about the Rockies' 6-0 loss. We'll use the football term, as my beloved Italian national team was unfortunately bounced not so long ago in the Euro Cup. But lifeless, zero, goose egg, whatever you want to use to describe the number 0. That was the case tonight for the Rockies offense, as they did not score a single run in this game tonight. Only 4 hits combined. I mean, they almost had as many errors as they had hits tonight. The Rockies had 2 errors to just 4 hits this game. And it's not like Cincinnati was, lighting up the scoreboard either. I mean, this game was 2-0 until we got to the 8th inning. So the Rockies were in this game until the very end. Wheels fall off with the bullpen, and that's how we wind up at this 6-0 loss for the Rockies against a Reds team that is, under 500, 43-48. They slipped a little bit, have the Reds here in recent memory. So just a disappointing performance for Colorado, whichever way you slice it here tonight. Base hit for Charlie Blackmon, 2 base hits for Ryan McMahon. He led the team with the 2 hits tonight. And then Brenton Doyle, the final Rockies hitter to log a hit in the game tonight. Ezekiel Tovar, 0 for 4. He has been struggling. And maybe that's a reason why, in addition to the depth that we see here at the shortstop position, he's hitting just 263. I shouldn't say just 263. That's, decent. But he was hitting close to 290 when I started doing this podcast about, 6 or 7 weeks ago now. So, he has really struggled as of late, talking about optimism, talking about bright spots. He had been the lone bright spot as of late. And it appears he is really struggling right now. 0 for 4 tonight. No strikeouts, though. Ryan McMahon, we talked about Elias Diaz tonight. 2 strikeouts. He goes 0 for 4. Brendan Rodgers, who's hitting 282, 0 for 3 tonight with a strikeout. Doyle, we talked about as well. Michael Toglia tonight, 0 for 2, strikeout and a walk. Hunter Goodman, 0 for 2. Jake Cave, 0 for 1 with a strikeout in his lone plate appearance. Shunk, 0 for 3. So 29 total at bats for the Rockies tonight, 9 strikeouts, 4 hits. They doubled their strikeouts to hits ratio tonight. And like I said, it's just not going to, you're not doing yourself any favors when your offense is either staggered with the hits or just lifeless with the bats, as we've seen here in recent memory for the Rockies, unfortunately. And, it's a shame because starting pitcher tonight, Tyler Kinley, or Ryan Feltner, Kinley was bad. He didn't even last a full inning out of the bullpen tonight, which is a shame considering that he was starting for this team just a few weeks ago. And, he's struggling just to get the job done in 1 inning for them tonight. But Ryan Feltner was, pretty darn good for this Rockies team tonight for the most part. I mean, the walks were a little bit of an issue. He finishes with 3 walks tonight. But, his stat line, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, only 1 of them earned, 3 walks and 6 strikeouts. I mean, like I said, for a Rocky starting pitcher, you will take that game in and game out, for the most part. Most teams would take that right now, to be honest with you. And, just like I said, another spoiled start, a decent start from a Rocky starting pitcher that ultimately leads to just yet another loss. And, I don't know if it's just because the lineup is that bad, or I think I mentioned it at the start of the program. This is now 7 consecutive losses, I believe, for the Rockies at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. So maybe it's a combination of the team's just not very good this year. And historically in recent memory, I'm talking post Nato, post Story, post John Gray, post LeMahieu era, this team has really struggled to pick up wins in the city of Cincinnati, take it on the Reds. But it's just straight up not good enough. And, I can't use the historical struggles in Cincinnati as an excuse to, crutch this game or whatever. We'll see what they can do in the rest of the series. They're going to have a couple more opportunities against this Reds team to try to right their wrongs. But the body of work has just been bad in Cincinnati. And like I said, it's not like you're going to New York and taking on the Yankees, or like how it is with the Dodgers, where the Rockies just get consistently spanked, by the Dodgers, whether it's in LA or at Coors Field. I mean, this is the Cincinnati Reds. I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me, but if you put their two records of the two franchises over the last 20 years side by side, I'm sure they're pretty darn close. Rockies might even have a better record over the last 20 years for all I know. Point being that this team is not very good historically. And I know in the last couple of seasons, they're getting better with Jonathan India and Ellie De La Cruz and company. But it's not like that you're playing the big bad Dodgers, right? And it's like you can kind of use that as the cop out of like, well, the Dodgers just own the Rockies. Well, the Dodgers are just better than the Rockies. Well, the Rockies are just no good and they struggle against the Dodgers. Like, no. Yes, the Rockies are no good. That is a fact right now. But I cannot use that as an excuse as to why they're putting up generating 4 hits and no runs against a Cincinnati Reds team that is average at best, maybe slightly above average on their best days. But like I said, it's not like we're talking about a heavyweight fighter here in the Cincinnati Reds, a team that the Rockies should be able to figure out a win a couple of games against each year. And did they sweep against the Rockies when they were at Coors Field about a month ago? I know they won at least 2 or 3. I think the Rockies may have won the final game of that series, if memory serves me correctly. But like I said, the saga continues with this team. It's just a never-ending story with them, and it's just I'm sure Ryan Feltner's frustrated. He's 1-8 this season, and tonight 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 of them earned, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Let's take a look at his game log here, because I actually think Ryan Feltner's been, and he's not born in 1996, so you're talking about a 28-year-old kid, 28-year-old kid here, who hopefully can be a part of this rotation moving forward, because he has been pretty darn good for the team this season. I mean, let's just take a look at his last few starts here. I mean, he was solid against the Houston Astros. The Rockies lost that game. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 of them earned. That was fine. That was 2 starts ago. Against Milwaukee, he was you will take this against Milwaukee. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run, no home runs allowed, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. I mean, the last 3 starts, when was his last bad start? Interestingly enough, his last bad start came against the Cincinnati Reds back on June 3rd, so over a month ago. And that start, he went 4 1/3, 10 hits, 8 earned run, gave up a home run, and no walks, but only 3 strikeouts. I mean, since then, he went 5 1/3 against St. Louis, 6 2/3 against Pittsburgh, 5 innings pitched against the Dodgers. He was not great there. He gave up 6 earned runs, 6 strong innings against Houston, 5 really good innings against Milwaukee, and then tonight, 7 solid innings against the Cincinnati Reds. So Ryan Feltner's doing his part. I mean, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So over the course of his last 7 starts, Ryan Feltner has pitched good enough for the Rockies to be in 5, if not win 5 of those 7 games. And the Rockies may have lost every single one of those, to be honest with you. As much as that pains me to have to say, I mean, let me see here. I guess they probably won that Milwaukee game without having it pulled up in front of me. Or do I have it pulled up? July 2nd, was that? All right, I don't want to keep you guys waiting. But point being, Ryan Feltner has done his job. He has absolutely done his job, and the Rockies offense has failed them. So disappointing stuff. Like I said, solid stuff from him tonight against Cincinnati. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, only 1 earned run allowed. 3 walks, which isn't great, but 6 strikeouts to go along with it. So good stuff from Ryan Feltner. It's a shame that the Rockies offense was unable to support him. So let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the show. We'll take a look at what's coming up for the Rockies in tomorrow's game against the Cincinnati Reds, and a couple of brief thoughts on Ryan McMahon making the All-Star team. Stick with us. Back in just a few minutes right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. All right, and let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because I love sports and I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, not just, the new customers, all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long over at FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And like I've always said, if the Rockies are going to keep playing this bad, you could bet against the Rockies, right? And if the Rockies somehow win a game, emotionally, you win. If the Rockies lose, financially, you win. So go check out our friends over at FanDuel.com. There's Wimbledon going on. The Euro Cup's still going on. The Olympics are starting up as well. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to get down with our friends over at FanDuel throughout the rest of Major League Baseball season. And, of course, football season is on the horizon. I saw something, I think Scott Hansen tweeted it out. I think we're only like 9 Sundays away from the NFL being back. So be sure to sign up with our friends over at FanDuel. Check them out, FanDuel.com. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. Wish it was under better circumstances as the Rockies lose to the Cincinnati Reds in the opening game of the series by a final score of 6-0. Boo! Boo! That is, the vibe for the Rockies right now. Offense lifeless, 4 hits, no runs tonight. And like I said, I've said it a few times on the show, the saga continues. The story is never ending with this Rockies club. So hopefully they can turn it around sooner rather than later. But I did want to get a couple of words off here about Mr. Ryan McMahon, who was named to the All-Star team. This will be his first All-Star appearance. And it's looking like he will be the lone representative, bearing anything unforeseen, for the Rockies at the All-Star game in Texas this year. So these were his numbers entering into tonight's game. He's hitting 272, 14 home runs, 45 RBI. So, not the greatest numbers in the world, for an All-Star. But at the end of the day, for the Rockies, really good numbers for Ryan McMahon. And he's been a guy that I've, been covering the team, have been in the clubhouse since he was called up, back in the day when the Rockies were contending for the playoffs. And, he's really rounded into form as of late, has Ryan McMahon. So a tip of the cap. Congratulations to Ryan McMahon, and well-deserved making his first All-Star team, lone representative or not. This has been his best season, and he's doing a good job of, collectively, bringing it every night defensively. He's been fantastic. And of course, he's always a threat for the long ball, double in the gap, base hit, single, whatever it might be. Not an easy out. Probably one of the few, guys that other teams are really scouting for. It'd be great if he had some protection, right? Because I think back to those days, and I know he was, a very young player at that point, a very raw player. But when you had LeMahieu, Story, Arenado, Cargo, Parra, and you're able to insert Ryan McMahon right there somewhere in the middle, it just made his job a lot easier. Now it's like Ryan McMahon and Elias Diaz, who was out for a while with the injury, that are essentially, your threats, for lack of a better phrase, in this Rockies lineup. So considering the lack of protection around him, this season, Ryan McMahon has been pretty darn good. So shout out to Ryan McMahon. He was good and well-deserved. He's 29 years old, his first All-Star appearance. He's the 4th All-Star third baseman for the Rockies in franchise history. He joins Nolan Arenado, who made the team from 2015 until all the way through consecutively to 2019. Jeff Cirillo made the All-Star team as a third baseman in the year 2000. And the great Vinny Castilla made it twice as a third baseman with the Rockies in 1995 and once again in 1998. McMahon's second in OPS among National League third basemen, and he was fantastic. So shout out to Ryan McMahon. I've also got some thoughts about Ezequiel Tovar and Elias Diaz not making the team, but why don't we save some of those thoughts for tomorrow? Because I wanted to make sure to give Ryan McMahon some spotlight, give him some shine. And, Lord knows the Rockies are probably losing 5-1 tomorrow. So we're going to need something else to talk about. So we could talk about if Elias Diaz and Ezequiel Tovar were indeed snubbed. If you listen to the show, I've had some mixed feelings about which guy should make the All-Star team. And so I'll save those thoughts for tomorrow's Locked On Rockies postcast as well. But let's see. Before we get out of here, folks, let's take a look at the matchup for tomorrow. so we can get you guys on your way and you can go to bed, or when you wake up in the morning, you'll know exactly what's on tap for the Rockies in the game. It'll be Cal Quantrill on the bump tomorrow for Colorado, who he's been their best starting pitcher by far this season. He is 6-6 with a 3.77 earned run average, and he'll go up against Nick Lodolo. I think I said that correctly, who's 8-3 with a 2.96 ERA and 73 strikeouts. So Lodolo has been great for the Cincinnati Reds. Let's take a look at his last time out. It was on June 23rd against the red-hot Boston Red Sox, and he got roughed up a little bit. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 of them earned, gave up a home run, 4 walks. Before that, he has been dominant in his, 4 starts ahead of that Boston start. 2, 4, 5, 6 earned runs combined in his previous 4 starts before he took the bump in Boston. So the body of work for Lodolo has been pretty darn good this season, and we'll see if Cal Quantrill and company can counter. And like we say, Cal Quantrill's been pretty good, 6-6 with a 3.77 earned run average. And let's see, his last time out, Mr. Quantrill, that was on the 4th of July, and he was pretty good against the Milwaukee Brewers. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, which you don't like to see. We know the walk has plagued them all year, and 2 strikeouts. But Cal Quantrill has been the Rockies' best starting pitcher collectively this season, so we'll see if he can get the Rockies back on track, snap this 2-game losing skid as they look to bounce back tomorrow against the Cincinnati Reds. So we'll be back at it again mañana after the game as well, so make sure to subscribe to this Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel. Happy to be back, and once again, be sure to follow me on social media at Media by AP. But the Rockies lose tonight 6-0. That is going to do it for me on tonight's episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast. The story continues, the saga continues, and we'll be right back at it again tomorrow after Cal Quantrill takes the mound and looks to get the Rockies back on track. Follow me on social at Media by AP. Other than that, enjoy your night, stay cool out there, and we'll talk to you guys mañana after the Rockies take on the Reds.